He walked onto a live stream, looked millions of people dead in the eye, and said the quiet part out loud. And within 48 hours, the entire hip-hop internet was burning to the ground. Not because of a diss track. Not because of an album rollout. Because of one sentence. One single sentence that collided head-on with a federal lawsuit and produced the most expensive contradiction rap has ever seen. Drake just told the culture his pen is not dry. Drake just dared the whole game to line up and battle him. And a streamer from Harlem answered him with one question so devastating, so perfectly surgical, that it is still echoing through every timeline on the internet right now. "How are you calling for a battle?" he asked, while you are actively suing a record label over the last battle you lost. Stay locked in, because what Drake did on that stream, what Elon Musk's algorithm did with the clips afterward, and what one fan accidentally confessed in the replies, adds up to something much bigger than rap beef. This is the story of an empire that now runs on outrage it cannot control. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why the biggest artist alive cannot log off, cannot let it go, and cannot stop feeding a machine that is eating him alive. Now, let me be clear before we go any further. If you think Drake fumbled the bag here, you're in the right place. Hit that like button right now, because this one is going to get ugly, and we are going to need every bit of support we can get before the fanbase storms the comment section. And they will storm it. They always do. That is part of the story. So here is what happened. Drake went live. And look, I did not even watch the stream. I am going to be honest with you, because somebody has to be. I did not have the time, and frankly, I did not have the interest. But that is the thing about this era of hip-hop media. You do not have to watch anything anymore. The moment Drake opened his mouth, the clips were already being sliced, diced, captioned, and force-fed into every feed on the platform. By sunrise, there was no escaping it. Drake, on camera, in that familiar smirking tone, telling the world that his pen is not dry. Telling the world that the competitive fire is still burning. Telling the world, in essence, that the boy is ready for war again. And on the surface, for anybody else, that is just rapper talk. Fighters say they want all the smoke. Ballplayers say they want the big moment. It is standard competitive theater. But Drake is not anybody else. Because Drake, as we speak, has lawyers. Real lawyers. Expensive lawyers. Lawyers who spent the better part of a year arguing in legal filings that a diss record aimed directly at him caused him quantifiable harm. You heard that correctly. The same man standing in front of a camera asking who wants to battle is the same man whose legal team went to war with a music corporation over a battle record. Kendrick Lamar dropped Not Like Us, the culture crowned it, the stadium sang it, the Super Bowl amplified it, and instead of answering on wax the way every great before him answered on wax, Drake answered in court. Enter Wayno. A streamer out of Harlem, New York, sharp tongue, no fear, no industry politics holding his tongue. And Wayno watched the clip of Drake talking tough, and he responded with the question that should have ended the conversation on the spot. Bro, how are you talking about somebody battling you when you are suing a company over a diss record where somebody battled you? That is it. That is the whole case. No production budget. No chart data. No think pieces required. Just a man from Harlem holding up a mirror. And the reason that clip traveled the way it traveled is because everybody who heard it felt the same jolt. We all knew it. We had all been thinking it. Wayno just said it out loud, and he said it in plain Harlem language that needed no translation, no context, no footnotes. One sentence and a year of carefully constructed narrative collapsed under its own weight. But here is where this story stops being funny and starts being forensic. Because something strange happened the moment that clip hit the timeline. The replies flooded in, and one of them pulled back a curtain that most people were not ready to look behind. A fan jumped into the mentions with an accusation. Drake hate rhetoric, he called it. We only hear from you when it is Drake related. And on the surface, that sounds like a defense. But sit with it for a second, because it is actually a confession. A confession about how the entire attention economy around Drake now functions. Understand something about the platform formerly known as Twitter. Since Elon Musk took over, the recommendation engine is not built to inform you. It is built to agitate you. It studies what makes your thumb stop moving. It studies what makes your pulse spike. And nothing, absolutely nothing in music discourse, makes a certain segment of the internet stop scrolling faster than a negative Drake clip. Elon Musk's algorithm figured this out a long time ago. The engineers behind that feed know that if you take a 2-hour interview, slice out the 90 seconds where somebody mentions Drake, and inject that clip into the timeline, the engagement detonates on command. It is not an accident. It is a business model. The commentator does a full sit-down with bootleg Kev covering a dozen topics, and nobody blinks. But the second one frame of that interview touches Drake, the machine puts it in front of every account it has profiled as reactive, and the crowd comes running like it is dinner time. They cannot help themselves. The algorithm knows they cannot help themselves. That is the entire design. And this is the part nobody wants to say out loud. The fan who screams that you only talk about his favorite artist has it completely backwards. The only reason he ever sees the commentary at all is because the algorithm detected Drake in the audio and served it to him on a silver platter. He is not seeing a pattern in the creator. He is seeing a pattern in himself. He is living inside a feedback loop that Elon Musk's platform engineered on purpose, and he thinks the walls of his cage are the whole world. That is not a fan defending an idol. That is a man describing his own programming without realizing it. Now, pay attention, because the fan did not stop there. And this is where the mask fully comes off. He tweeted a follow-up, and this one is the tell. He wrote, and I am paraphrasing the gist here, that certain commentators are signed to a podcast network owned by a rival media personality, and therefore everything they say about Drake is compromised. He named names. He pointed at Wayno. He pointed at Glasses Malone. He invoked Charlemagne the God and the Black Effect Network like he was reading charges at an indictment hearing. In his mind, he had cracked the case wide open. Read that again slowly, though, because what he actually did was confess how his own brain processes criticism of Drake. Nobody could possibly look at the lawsuit, look at the stream, look at the contradiction, and arrive at a negative opinion using their own two eyes. No, there must be a paycheck. There must be a conspiracy. There must be a hidden hand signing somebody's checks. Because the alternative, the terrifying alternative, is that regular people with functioning logic watched Drake sue over a diss record and then watched him ask for more smoke, and they laughed. That possibility cannot be allowed to exist in his reality. So he built a conspiracy instead. And this, right here, is the psychological core of the modern superfan era. The idol cannot be wrong. So reality must be. The critic cannot be honest. So he must be bought. It is a closed loop of cope, and it runs on a simple rule. Any evidence against Drake is propaganda. Any evidence for Drake is truth. And once a fanbase adopts that rule, there is no event in the physical world that can reach them anymore. And let me be fair for a moment, because fairness is what separates commentary from propaganda. Is there a media economy that profits off Drake criticism? Absolutely. We just spent a whole segment establishing that. Are there commentators who lean into it because it pays? Without question. But here is the distinction the conspiracy brain can never process. The existence of a profit motive does not manufacture the underlying fact. The lawsuit does not become fictional because somebody got paid to discuss it. The stream did not become a deepfake because a clip page monetized it. The contradiction between battle talk and courtroom filings does not evaporate because the man pointing at it has a network deal. You can audit every commentator's motives from now until the end of time, and when you are finished, the filings will still be sitting there. Public. Dated. Signed. That is the part no conspiracy thread has ever been able to touch, and it is why every defense of this era eventually collapses into attacking the messenger. When you cannot refute the messenger is all you have left. Let me tell you something about how real fans behave, because I am one. I am a die-hard Jay-Z supporter. Have been for decades. And when Jay-Z drops something that misses, I say it missed. Kingdom Come had songs on it that did not land, and I said so, out loud, in public, and the sun still came up the next morning. My fandom did not shatter. My identity did not crack. Because my love for Jay-Z was never contingent on pretending Jay-Z is perfect. I do not argue with strangers about Scarface. You could pull up a chair and tell me your wildest Scarface take, and I would not give you 2 minutes of debate, because Scarface's greatness does not need my defense. Same with Snoop Dogg. People talk crazy about Snoop Dogg every single day on that app, and I keep scrolling, because what do I look like arguing with somebody about Snoop? And Kanye West, a man who does the most chaotic things known to modern celebrity, and you will never catch me in a thread going to war over it. Never. The art speaks. The legacy stands. It does not need a volunteer army. And this is where the basketball analogy becomes unavoidable, because it maps perfectly onto what Drake's most aggressive defenders are doing. Magic Johnson. 5 rings. 3 MVPs. 3 finals MVPs. One of the 10 greatest players to ever touch a basketball. And do you know what Magic Johnson fans do when somebody comes at Magic? Nothing. One tweet. Here is a highlight. Maybe a stat line. That is the whole response. Because Magic's resume is bulletproof glass. The LeBron James people and the Michael Jordan people have been in a digital civil war for a decade, but the Magic Johnson contingent stays out of the mud because they understand a fundamental law of greatness. When the legacy is secure, silence is the flex. Arguing is an admission. Arguing says the thing you love is fragile enough to be damaged by a stranger's opinion. And that is the tell with the Drake defense squads. It is the sheer volume of the arguing. The desperation of it. You do not defend something that is standing tall. You defend something that is wobbling. Now stay with me, because we are about to go deeper, and what is coming next reframes this entire situation. Because the question is not whether Drake has fans. Of course Drake has fans. The question is why Drake, the artist, keeps behaving in ways that hand ammunition to every critic on earth. Why did he get on that stream at all? Why, after a year of licking wounds, after the lawsuit headlines, after watching Kendrick Lamar turn a victory lap into a cultural coronation, why would Drake voluntarily step back in front of a camera and provoke the exact conversation he cannot win? The answer is relevance economics. And this is the part of the story that should genuinely unsettle anybody who cares about the art form. Look at the pattern. When Drake releases music that the streets are not talking about, the conversation around him goes quiet within days. Be honest with yourself. Did you even know Drake dropped new music recently? Seriously. Answer that in the comments, because I am trying to prove a point. The features come and go. The albums chart and then vanish from the discourse. But when Drake beefs, the numbers go vertical. The streams spike. The clips multiply. The think pieces bloom. Somewhere along the line, the machine taught Drake a terrible lesson. Conflict is the product now, not the music. The music is the excuse for the conflict. And so he keeps reaching for the one lever that still moves the needle, even when pulling it tears his own credibility to shreds. He calls out Rock Nation. He references the 20 against 1 narrative. He pokes at Jay-Z. He teases the pen. Every few weeks, like clockwork, another drip of provocation into the feed, because provocation is the only currency that still clears. And think about what that admission really means for a legacy. For 15 years, the Drake formula was untouchable. Drop a project, dominate every platform, move the culture's center of gravity to wherever you are standing. The music itself was the event. That era is over, and deep down, everyone in this conversation knows it is over. Now the event is the reaction. The rollout is the outrage cycle. He is no longer competing with Kendrick Lamar for the crown. He is competing with the timeline's attention span, and the timeline is an opponent with no face, no mercy, and no memory. You cannot win that fight. You can only feed it. And every time Drake goes live and reaches for the old bravado, he is not challenging a rival. He is paying a tax. The relevance tax. The most expensive tax in entertainment because it is collected in credibility. And the tragedy, the genuine tragedy, is that it did not have to be this way. You can be a fan of the man and say it plainly. The lawsuit happened. The lawsuit is real. The lawsuit is a matter of public record. And the lawsuit stands in direct, unresolvable contradiction with everything he said on that stream. Both things can be true at once. You can love Drake's catalog, you can have views in your rotation and Take Care tattooed on your soul, and still look at this sequence of events and say, man, that was a bad move. That is not hate. That is having eyes. But we have entered this strange, broken era of fandom where the supporter is required to lie on the idol's behalf. Where admitting a single flaw is treated as treason. Where the fanbase would rather construct an alternate reality than let one brick of the mythology crack. That is not support. That is a hostage situation with a fanbase holding itself hostage. And notice who profits from the hostage situation. Not the fans. Not the culture. The platforms profit. Elon Musk's platform converts every ounce of that manufactured rage into ad impressions. The clip pages profit. The streamers dissecting every frame profit. One commentator pointed out that he could watch Drake's entire stream, break it down frame by frame, chop it into 1,000 clips, and clear $5,000 to $10,000 off a single weekend of outrage farming. And he is right. The math is sitting right there. Outrage against Drake is a growth industry. Outrage from Drake's fans is a growth industry. And standing at the center of it all is Drake himself, the only participant in the entire economy who is spending money, reputation, and legacy instead of earning it. He is the product, the marketing budget, and the casualty, all at the same time. And before we get to the part that sent this whole thing into orbit, I want to address the preachers in the room, the ones who treat every one of these conversations like a sermon nobody asked to sit through. You know the type. They talk at the fan base like they are delivering scripture to the congregation, and half the congregation has not been inside a church in years. That is the energy of this entire debate. One side preaching doctrine, the other side not even speaking the language anymore. And the preacher keeps wondering why the pews are empty. The pews are empty because the congregation fact-checked the scripture. That is what the Wayno moment actually was. Not a diss. A fact-check delivered at the pulpit, in front of everybody on a Sunday. Now here is the part that sent the whole thing into orbit, and if you made it this far, you're about to get the payoff. Because after Wayno's response went viral, after the algorithm did what Elon Musk's machine was built to do, the conversation metastasized into something nobody controlled. Older clips resurfaced. The Kendrick Lamar battle got relitigated frame by frame all over again. Every punchline Drake ever aimed at Kendrick Lamar got weighed against the legal filings. Every tough-talking interview answer got cross-examined against court documents. And the contrast is devastating. Kendrick Lamar beat him so thoroughly in the arena of bars that the response was not a record. It was a courtroom. And now the same voice that chose a courtroom wants to stand back up on the stream and talk about pens and battles and smoke. You cannot have it both ways. The culture will let you be many things. A lover, a hitmaker, a villain, even a loser of a battle, because losing a battle is survivable. Legends have lost battles and walked back into the ring taller. But the culture will never respect the man who ran to the referee and then came back talking like he won the fight. And this is where I need to hear from you, because this debate is bigger than one streamer and one clip. Rank these three legacies right now in the comments. The Toronto Kid, the Compton King, and the Brooklyn Dawn, after everything that has happened in the last 24 months. And I already know the war this is going to start. Good. Start it. Second question. Do you think Drake should drop the lawsuit, get back in the booth, and answer for real? Or do you think the lawsuit was justified and the culture is holding him to a standard nobody else gets held to? Pick a side. There is no neutral corner left. Because understand what is really at stake here. This was never just about a stream. It was never just about one sentence about a pen. This is about what hip-hop does with contradiction. Every era of this culture has had its defining question. And the defining question of this one is whether the biggest star in the history of the genre can survive being judged by the same rules as everybody else. Kendrick Lamar is sitting somewhere calm, untouchable, watching the man who sued over their battle ask the world for another one. Kendrick Lamar has not had to say a word in months. The silence is doing all the talking. Jay-Z is watching from a balcony he built himself, a man who absorbed every shot, every rumor, every scandal cycle for 3 decades and never once let the timeline see him flinch. That is the blueprint. That is what untouchable actually looks like. And the fans, the real ones and the hostage ones alike, are watching Drake fight a war on 3 fronts, against his rival, against the algorithm, and against the version of himself that the court documents made permanent. And there is a 4th front nobody mentions. The clock. Every month this contradiction sits unresolved, it hardens. Right now it is a meme. A year from now it is a Wikipedia paragraph. 5 years from now it is the first line of the legacy summary, the thing the documentaries lead with, the asterisk every historian attaches to the greatest commercial run rap has ever seen. That is the real cost of what happened on that stream. Not the jokes. Not the ratio. The permanence. Hip-hop forgives almost everything eventually. It forgave violence, it forgave scandal, it forgave lies exposed in broad daylight. What it has never once forgiven is an artist who told the culture he wanted war while his lawyers were telling a judge the last war hurt too much. There is no comeback record for that. There is only outrunning it, and the algorithm will not let him outrun anything. Elon Musk's machine does not forget, because forgetting is bad for engagement. The wildest part of all of this? Drake could end it tomorrow. Not with a statement. Not with a lawyer. With a record. One undeniable record would do what 1,000 streams and 100 lawsuits never could. The door is open. The pen he swears is not dry is sitting right there. And the whole world, the haters and the worshippers and the algorithm that feeds them both, is waiting to see if he will ever actually use it. So tell me below, does he have one more classic in him, or is the pen talk just that talk? And if you are still here at the end of this one, you are the real ones. Hit the like, tap subscribe, and ring the bell, because the next chapter of this saga is already loading, and when it drops, you are going to want to be first in line. Check out the video on your screen right now for the full breakdown of how the lawsuit got here in the first place. Trust me, that one connects every dot.